Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back for some more EVE Online. Today's video is going to be a discussion video on the fall of Niarja to the Triglavian collective, and we're holding this one from my main base of operation in Dital rather than Jita, the largest trade hub in the game, because of course trading in EVE Online will be majorly impacted by this takeover of the Niarja system by the Triglavian collective. So what happened? I actually went to Niarja on the first day when it was invaded, and CCP started streaming everything on their channel to take a look to see what happens, and I also grabbed a little bit of footage. And on that first day it actually felt like Edencom might have a little bit of a chance. Things were decently balanced. The Triglavian sites were cleaned up by several fleets. I would say that the Edencom forces even had a slight edge over the Triglavian forces, but if I read everything correctly on what happened, eventually the nullsec blocks took a side as well. The Imperium decided that they were going to help the Triglavians, and I basically think they were a little bit too fast, or maybe more organized or something like that, because in record time Niarja has fallen. If you want to find that information for yourself, you can always go to the agency home, Triglavian invasions, and then look for final liminality. And we can see that Niarja is now in final liminality, which, if I'm not mistaken, means it now obeys low-sec or null-sec rules for Concord intervention. Basically, Concord won't be there to help you anymore, and that of course is going to be a very big problem for freighter pilots, trading ships, things like that. Will probably have to find an alternative if they want to move from one side of Niarja to the other, and that means a very big change. I would also like to note at this point that this may not even be the end of the changes to our situation, because we don't know if this state is something that will remain. In fact, it's, in my opinion, very unlikely. The trailer already very clearly hinted at gates getting shut off, and so some people are speculating that eventually the Triglavian collective, when they're done making their massive construction around the star, and then also basically destroying the star or grabbing all the energy they can from the star, that the gates will shut down, and that those systems, all of these 16 at the moment that are in final liminality and in the hands of the Triglavian collective, will just be removed from the gateway system in EVE Online, and that of course will change the topography quite a lot, and especially of course Niarja being removed would be a very big impact to high-sec and to basically the distance between Amarr and Jita. So yeah, what's next? We don't know, but I think that this could not be the end of the changes when it comes to these Triglavian invasions. So we'll have to obviously see what happens next for ourselves. So something that I also want to talk about in this video is, of course, the impact of Niarja falling for Jita and for Amarr, because basically that has changed quite a little bit. You can see my former route here, 18 jumps from Dital, and it was like 9 jumps, I think, from Amarr to Jita. Very doable, short route, and you did have to go to Niarja, that was 0.5, but it was still high-sec. At least Concord would come in to intervene. Now that that is gone, if I want to go to Jita from here without going through Niarja, I actually put it on my avoidance list to show that, we have to go 38 jumps, and I think it was like 44 jumps from Amarr to Jita, because you actually have to go into a very different direction now in order to get there. And if we then look at some of the other trade hubs, Jita is at 38, Perimeter is at 37 jumps, and there are a couple more potential trade hubs like Rennes. Set destination is 13 jumps away. Heck is now 19 jumps away from here, and Amarr itself is 9 jumps away from here. And so what basically has happened here is that I think, especially for certain resources, mining stuff, PI stuff, things like that, Jita and Amarr have become from two of the closest trade hubs to the furthest trade hubs in EVE Online, and that of course leads to a lot of speculation as to what's going to happen next. I've seen two main lines of thinking. The first one is that This will be terrible for Amarr, as players decide that the advantages of the Jita market being by far the largest and thus almost immediate selling of anything that you find and produce in EVE Online, that will make it worth it for them to abandon Amarr space and to move closer and closer to the Jita market, which will of course eventually completely gut the Amarr market itself, that will become a shadow of its former self. That's one line of thinking. The other is of course the exact opposite, that players in Amarr space that have the most high-sec systems available to them and probably mine and produce a decent amount of PI materials will actually try to establish themselves in Amarr space itself, choose a trade hub around here. Could be Amarr, could be another system, could be Heck, could be Rens. We still don't know, of course, but that they will decide to remain local, and that this will eventually mean an increase in activity in a trade hub in Amarr space and a decrease in supply of raw materials to Jita itself, which would mean rising prices there, of course. I myself, I don't know. I think that the second one does have a good chance, and that would be my immediate plan, because what am I going to change now? Obviously, I'm no longer going to move my PI, to move my compressed ores, to move the munitions that I produce all the way to Jita, because I would not risk going through Niarja in something like an Okator, in something like even my fast transport, my Wraith with compressed ores. That is just not on the books anymore. What will I still be doing is of course my exploration loot, right? If I explore a little bit and I find something like this True Session Warp Disruptor, some of these shield boosters, some of these faction armor pieces, I think it is, here in the Amarr sites. All of that will still be moved through the 18 jump route to Amarr, but then in something like an interceptor or my Dramiel, so that I have a very good chance of just getting through that system, despite the fact that Concord would not be helping me if I do get ganked. I have to be careful for smart bombs, so perhaps Ace Face's Sunesis that he showed like a couple of weeks ago as his transport ship could become an option as well. I think it will actually become a pretty popular option because it's got a little bit more HP than all of these tiny ships, but speed is going to be of the essence, and that means not a lot of cargo. So while I think that for stuff like blueprints and faction modules, Jita will still be dominant and not that much will change for those. When it comes to the real raw materials, the baseline of the economy, minerals, ores, PI, all of that is going to be massively impacted by Niarja being taken over, and I myself will have to wait and see how things develop. But my very first instinct is going to be, I'm going to try to sell some more locally. Of course, I have a small trade hub right there. The Asbel you can see in the distance has its own market, and so for now I'm going to try and sell some of the things that I think will sell locally there. In fact, I've been starting that, and I'm trying to now see if a batch of compressed Velpar would find its way perhaps to the local industrialists, perhaps to an entrepreneurial trader that actually wants to move it to a better place. We'll see what happens, but yeah, the faction stuff I'll still move to Jita through the old route. Everything else will have to find its way to the local economy. Yeah, that basically means that this is a very big change to the game. The two largest trade hubs in EVE Online, Jita and Amarr, have basically been ripped apart. They're now at the other sides of the high-sec galaxy in EVE Online. And how will this evolve? I don't know, but I do think that this is very interesting, very cool, of course, and that this is full of opportunities for miners, traders, and industrialists. As I've said, I personally think that there is a good chance that players will try to make it work locally, which would be a boon to local miners, of course. If more demand comes in to produce stuff for the local market, they could get even better prices than they can at the moment. For traders, we should see a much bigger difference in prices between Amarr and Jita, which means that, of course, they'll have to work for it. They have to either go the big route or organize something in a jump freighter, but they could also get a much better return on the trades between between these two trade hubs. And then of course we get the industrialists will actually be, I think, the linchpin of that potential. Will they decide that their efforts are better spent in faraway Amarr space for the local market, or will they decide to move everything to Jita, which in my opinion is already pretty crowded? You also have system indices that increase the cost the more players are actively doing manufacturing in a system and things like that. I'm hoping that that's what happens. I think it would be very cool if Amarr would actually grow, if you would see higher prices and less incentive to put everything into Jita, but I of course can't be sure that that's going to happen. So Niarja has fallen to the collective, the one system with potentially the biggest impact on EVE Online in general, I would say, but specifically to HiSec, has fallen to them. The players have made that choice. There's some speculation about that this was meant to happen, that it was gonna fall either way, but I really think that if EdenCom was more organized, or if the Imperium decided that keeping Niarja HiSec was in their best interest, that's exactly what would have happened. I think the players have made this choice, and yeah, it's in my opinion a demonstration of how EVE Online is the greatest sandbox in the world, because in no other game that I know of would a bold step like this be possible and be made. So we'll see what the fallout of all of this is going to be. As always, I'll keep you guys up to date, but yeah, I've got some planning to do, because all of these donations are now basically on the wrong side of Niarja for quick turnovers in Jita. So I've got some work to do. I'll keep you guys up to date. For now, thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.